Hello, I'm Danny Harrington. This is the Football Fan Show podcast. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Liam Barry is my guest, and we're talking about the collapse of the Chinese Super League. We're talking about Sergio Agüero and what's next for Manchester City in the striker department, as well as several other stories from the world of football. We're talking about the Republic of Ireland manager, some of the international games, and the England under-21 job as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on your favourite podcast provider. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hello, and please subscribe for more content. Let's get into it. The CSL, the Chinese Super League, is our first port of call. According to this wonderful article that was published midweek from Axios, the bubble has finally burst. And it leaves me with a question that, and this is a two-prong attack. One, can there ever be a league that can challenge major leagues in Europe outside of Europe? Can there ever be that league? My argument is no, but I'll get to that in a bit. But let's talk about the sky-high wages, the £500,000 a week wages that, quite frankly, if they wanted a mercenary, they could give me a call, because I've already said on this channel, if they offered me £500,000 to sit on the bench in the Chinese Super League, I'm a whore, so give me the money. I'll even doll myself up for you. The Chinese Super League, it was on the rise. There's many players. Who do you remember being your signing that you saw them go to China and go, okay, they're being serious here?
I think Oscar was.
Yeah.
Oscar went. Yannick Carrasco went, didn't he?
Yeah.
And it's the players that went kind of younger. So you see like older players go and you go, all right, fair enough, a bit of a swan song. So when like Drogba went and stuff like that, and Anelka, and it's like, okay, you're kind of at the end of your career. It's similar to going to MLS. But Drogba did go, didn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, when Oscar went, I was like, hang on a minute, and
Alex Teixeira from Shakhtar.
Yeah.
Because he's been there for 5 years. He's just left. He went there 5 years ago. He's 31 now, so he would have been in his prime. He would have been about 26, and he was touted as a Premier League signing. And he left Shakhtar to go to China.
Yeah, it's and at the time you're baffled, and then you hear about like the boatloads of money that's being kind of like backed up to their front doors and given to them, and you just go, right, okay, fair enough. Like I get it. I morally, is it something that you agree with? No, but let's be honest. What did the Premier League do when they first started attracting players from abroad? Exactly the same thing, yeah. And they went and generally went for older players and that. So. And the players in their prime were playing in Italy and Spain and Germany and stuff. So, you know, it's not a new tactic, but it's, I suppose the difference being that, like with the Premier League, obviously things could continue in that because the government don't really get involved in that. Whereas in China, I know it was a couple of seasons ago, they started putting caps on how much you could spend on overseas players and how many overseas players you could have and stuff, and that really kind of started to knock the sales out of that market, didn't it?
So from what I understand from the very early days of what this kind of CSL was, so the CSL, if you look at the history of it, is rife with corruption. That has always been there. It's why many Chinese fans never actually went to watch CSL matches, because they knew that it's a good chance that the match had already been agreed upon. It became professional wrestling.
That throw-in in the first 25 seconds, that was absolutely paid for by ex-businessman.
Yes, exactly. A lot of betting took place on CSL matches, and whilst, you know, some argue that it still takes place, others, you know, there's things that still dodgy about it and still need to be looked at. So it's why you had like clubs in 60,000 capacity stadiums getting 500 people through the door.
Yeah.
And the only real super club within China itself was its oldest club, which was Shanghai Shenhua, because everybody has heard. I would safely say that Shanghai Shenhua are the biggest Chinese club, because outside Hong Kong FC, not many people. Sorry, South China FC. South China FC and Shanghai Shenhua are the two clubs that I know from that region. Don't know any Japanese clubs. I know barely any Korean clubs, but I know Shanghai Shenhua and I know South China FC as the two kind of super clubs. South China FC obviously play in Hong Kong. Shanghai Shenhua, which I think is now corporate, as a corporate name in its title. Obviously the club that Drogba played for as well.
Yeah.
But that's the club I'd heard of. But I'd never heard of any of the other clubs. And you want to know why I'd never heard of them? Because they were founded as soon as big companies started to go, oh, well, Xi Jinping likes football, and he wants to win the World Cup by 2050, and he wants China to host a World Cup. So if we want to have favours from the government, let's say, if we invest in football and start developing young Chinese talent, but also bring eyeballs to it by signing Europe's best players or aging players that are aging out, then we will have favour with the government.
Yeah.
That turned out to not be the case, and like any bubble, it was always going to burst. And the new season of the CSL is going to start later this month. Now, the defending champions, we mentioned Alex Teixeira because he played for the defending champions, which was Jiangsu Suning. Now, the company that owns this club own Inter Milan.
Yeah.
But they are not linked. Jiangsu Suning FC had a men's and women's team. Men's team won the CSL. Now, you'd think that would be a great investment. They've won the league. Let's go at it and defend that title. No, as soon as the season was over, Suning, the company, decided, that's it, we're folding the club. So the defending champions of the Chinese Super League are not a club anymore. They shut down their men's and women's division. They are not a club anymore, despite being a very good team of very good players.
Yep.
And their estimated revenue was around, the value of their team was around $144 million. $144 million for a team that, you know, is not Eurocentric.
Yeah.
And so they just folded. Also, Shandong Luan, the Chinese FA Cup winners, they've been kicked out of the AFC Champions League, the Asian Champions League, for failing to pay their employees. Tianjin Tigers are at risk of collapse after the club's parent company, a state-owned corporation, pulled their funding for the team. And we're seeing other clubs folding or getting into serious debt and not being able to pay those. Lian, I can't say it. Lian Ing. I'm just go with that
You've
one.
You've given it a good go.
I've given it Liaoning FC, the first Chinese club to ever win the AFC Champions League, folded last year, being unable to pay its debts. The bubble has burst, and when did this start? Remind me, what was it, around 2015, 2016 that the Chinese clubs started to make a serious play?
Yeah, it was, and yeah, like you said, that you saw initially kind of like a lot of the older players going over on those big contracts, and even I think didn't Hulk come up? Did he go out there and then he retired, and then he came out of retirement and got a deal out in China, you know, so yeah, there's a lot of those guys going out there, and I think that huge investment initially was like probably the gamble, wasn't it? Right, let's pump a load in. Let's see. We think that we can make this a global thing. We're going to get a product that people are going to want to watch because we're going to get these big stars in. Reality is they didn't get all the big stars that they wanted because a lot of big stars still wanted to stay in Europe. They got some of the younger ones, which was surprising, as we've said before. But if you're not getting the audiences and you're pumping in all that money, you know, if you look at the Premier League, those clubs, they've lost money with clubs not being in the we're not having fans in the stadiums this year, but they're still selling all the kits worldwide. They've still got the big TV deals and everything going for them. Whereas, like you say, you knew what, 2 Chinese Super League teams? I think the only other I know a couple more. It's probably more from just seeing their names pop up in like transfer gossip more than anything, like Guangzhou Evergrande, because didn't Yakubu went there or something. Like, I mean, and a few different players went over there for a bit later on in their career. So we haven't. There's been no desire to watch them on TV. I couldn't tell you where I could watch a Chinese Super League. I can't watch it on Sky. I can't watch it on BT. I can't.
I think it was on Sky Sports for like 3 months.
Exactly.
I remember seeing one CSL game advertised. Well, it wasn't advertised. It was just on Sky Sports main event or something like that. And I think they had it for 3 months before they were like, "Nah, this is terrible," and they just dropped it.
Exactly. You don't get the. So it's not anywhere that anyone is really watching it. You don't even get like the Asian Champions League as well, which you'd have to work hard to go and find those games. And as a casual football fan, if you just want to watch football, you're going to put on the stuff that you can just get easily. You have to have an active interest in the Chinese Super League or Asian football or the Asian Champions League to actively seek that out and to watch it. So if it's not easy to watch, you ain't going to watch it, which means you're not going to be getting the interest in that. So all that money that's going in there is for nothing at the end of the day, because the brand hasn't really grown much bigger than it was before.
No, and that's the argument. As you were hinting at earlier, the Chinese FA have brought in a salary cap to better control the finances. They're also encouraging a homegrown development rule as well. The one thing that always irritated me when playing in the CSL on Football Manager is that you could never sign a foreign goalkeeper. You had to have a Chinese goalkeeper. They did not allow you to sign foreign goalkeepers. You had to play with a Chinese goalkeeper. That's the one position they were like, you have to play. I can't remember which edition it was, and the rules probably changed later on down the line. But on the edition, this is just like midpoint. I think it was 2017, 2018.
Is that because of the long tradition of Chinese goalkeepers?
Exactly. Just fantastic. What, have you never heard of the world-class Chinese goalkeeper?
Nope.
Hang on, it'll come to me in a moment.
Oh, Jimmy.
No, I'm not.
Nope.
I'm done. No.
Exactly. It's not a thing.
Exactly.
Mad.
You'd have thought they'd have gone for like Gigi Buffon or somebody like that and said, at least stick around and help teach our lot how to save a couple of shots.
So the thing is as well is that money that they pumped into like star signings and stuff. Like, I get it. Clearly, it hasn't worked. But if they took that money and they pumped that into their academies, into their players, you look at just on a numbers perspective. I mean, the population of China is so big that if they do it right, they're bound to get some absolute quality there.
Same with India, same with the United States. If they put their money and mind to it, they could win it any day of the week. Yeah,
but then you've got to look at, okay, what are like the national sports for those countries? What are people really interested in? So in India, they're not really
they're football fans, but they're fans of English clubs. They're not fans of their own teams. They're not fans of their own players.
They're football fans. They like football a lot, and you see it on social media and that they're really, really passionate fans. But forgive me, this is a sweeping generalisation, but from what I can tell from people I know and things like that, is that cricket is number one.
Oh yeah, cricket rules the roost.
Cricket in India is like football is over here. It's almost a religion. It's like the lifeblood of communities and things. Cricket is huge.
It's the workers' game.
Yeah, and that's where they're putting all the development and everything into, because that's the thing that everybody loves.
Yeah.
In America, they're like, soccer's all right, but it's basketball, it's baseball, it's it's
American football or rugby for pussies, as I've said. Body armor.
You know,
Table tennis, the biggest sport in China. I would also argue snooker's up there as well. That's massive in China. Badminton is massive in China. Basketball is also
going out in the cold.
Well, basketball's massive in China as well. Yeah. And then I would say that football comes under all of these. I would say, I would just say football comes under all of those. So you're fighting a battle there that you're not going to win. And to be honest, and I think Japan and South Korea caught onto this very early on, that they were like, well, if we train our players well enough and they play well enough, they're going to get transfers to European clubs. So that is what we're banking on. And especially for your national team, definitely. And yeah, you need your own league, your domestic league, to kind of bring those players through into, so they can then be scouted in that. But I think it's tricky. And you look at South Korea and you look at Japan. Yeah, South Korea, like Korea, more recently, you've seen a few more players come through. Obviously, Son's the most notable. And you had obviously Park, Ji-sung Park, and what's the other guy who was at Arsenal? It was also Park. That was rubbish. It's absolutely awful. I remember there was the Japanese lad at Arsenal.
Junichi Inamoto and Ryo Miyachi.
Yeah,
two Japanese
those were
lads.
The two.
But the problem that you have there as well is because they're such big football markets. Is some clubs will sign these players almost as a marketing tool, which is unfair on them, because like Junichi Inamoto, he barely pulled on an Arsenal shirt.
I mean, you know why Park Jae-sung was signed by Manchester United. They just signed him as a marketing tool, but it turned out he was a damn good player.
Yeah. Well, he was doing really good things at PSV, wasn't he? That's where they got him from, isn't it?
Yeah,
doing great things. And then and he was he was a great servant for Man United, and worked hard, created goals, scored important goals for him and stuff as well, and seemingly never ran out of energy. And then and you've had other players, like Japan wise, you've had probably, I don't know, it doesn't seem like there's been as many, but then I suppose
I think the best player
Kagawa?
I was going to say the best player from Japan that I always remember never actually played in the Premier League was Keisuke Honda, who played for CSKA Moscow, and I always thought he was fantastic. Who else did you have?
Wasn't he recently saying I'll play for Man United for free or something? It's like, mate, you're like 32 now.
Yeah,
you haven't been good for about 8 years.
Takumi Minamino is Southampton at the moment on loan from Liverpool.
Yeah, on loan from Liverpool. So but there's not been a great wealth of players come out, really, has there?
I think South Korea has always been stronger for producing good. Like, you look at Son at Tottenham, just an amazing striker, and any club would be lucky to have Son Heung-min as well. So he was Park Chu-young was the player you were thinking of. Park Chu-young.
That's the guy.
But yeah, there's always been some fantastic Asian players. I don't know if there are any Chinese.
There was a left back played for Manchester City when Stuart Pearce was there.
Oh yeah, that would have been 2000. Yeah, generally I'm looking at the names and they're generally all around the 2002 when China were the only time they ever got to the World Cup, which was 2002. And the player you're thinking of is Sun Jihai. Sun Jihai.
Yeah.
And then you got Lai Ti, who played for Everton from 2002 to 2004. Lai Wei Feng, 2002 to 2003, also Everton. Dong Fang Zhao of Manchester United, 2006-2007. Zheng Ji, Charlton Athletic, 2006-2007.
Yeah.
And then there is Arsenal's Nico Yenir. Yeah, I can't even say it.
Nico Yenaris.
Sorry.
So that's a different one though. So Nico Yenaris is, I think, was.
But he is from here. He is from here.
I think he's born in London. He's
he's played 5 games for China.
Yeah, one of his parents is Chinese, and the other is, I'm not sure where
his name now is Lai Qi, by the way. I'm not making that up. It's actually Lai Qi. That is his name.
Interesting.
But that's what he goes by now. But
does he play out in China now? Because he was at Brentford, wasn't he, for a while?
I will have a look. Where is he? He's at Beijing Guan.
Can I just really quickly, completely off topic, Aubameyang's hair. If you thought it was bad before, he's now got these braids. I mean, without no pun intended, it's dreadful.
Oh, the pun was
so bad.
I'm going to accuse you of it definitely including of deliberately using that pun.
His hair is worse than that pun.
Oh, lovely. Right, yeah, the bubbles burst for the Chinese Super League. Best they can do, train some players, send them over. There are some good young Chinese players that are playing. I think there was one at Fiorentina. I can't remember the name. There was a North Korean player as well at I think it was Genoa, who was the only professional North Korean player. North Korean players always seem to go to Italy. They have I think 3 or 4 of their players have gone to Italy. And
don't blame them. It's a lovely place. The food's fantastic. Some great weather. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And weirdly, I think they have to agree a deal with the government. Maybe fake news or real, I don't know. I heard somewhere that they had to sign a deal that some of their wages has to go to the North Korean government, which also meant FIFA were very much against North Korean players leaving North Korea.
Because they didn't get their kickback.
Well, FIFA would rather the money go to them than a government. Let's move on. Talk about before we go to Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe. Is that what he is now? The Eddie Howe.
The Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe. The God of Howe. The Eddie Howe. That is now how we refer to
the Church of Howe.
Church of Howe. Power. Hail Eddie, full of grace. The Howes with thee. Before we get to Eddie Howe and the Celtic job, or the Eddie Howe and Celtic, I did not prepare you for this, Liam. I've got something that I just found before we went live, which was Brazil, which is known for essentially being managerial silly season. If you've ever seen the Premier League or any European league in their sacking clubs left, right and centre, trust me, Brazil is the country that goes, oh, you've sacked 2 managers in one season, hold my beer. And they sack about 5. That's an exaggeration, but it might not also be an exaggeration. They've actually had to bring in a rule now to prevent this from happening.
Excellent.
And I want to ask you if this is a good idea for England. So, the next step forward for the Brazilian Football Confederation, and they've said it's going to benefit clubs as well as coaches, that if you sack your manager once, you can go outside the club to bring in a replacement. But if you sack them twice, you have to promote from within. You are not then allowed to go externally and bring in somebody external. You have to make one of your coaches already established at the club and promote them to either caretaker or permanent manager.
That's interesting, because I wonder how like the sackings work over there. Is if do they get their their contract paid up or whatever and get their payouts and stuff? Because I know that in Italy, when they sack a manager, because I think they have a rule like you can't have more than 2 managers in a year or something like that. But it's when they sack a manager, they go on gardening leave until they get a job somewhere else. Yeah. So they don't pay them. They don't pay out their contracts. much like, with like the talk of like if Spurs sack Mourinho, they'd have to pay 25 mil. So in Italy, what they do a lot is they put them on gardening leave, and this is why you'll see them. They get someone else in, and if that doesn't work out, they sack them, or also put them on gardening leave, and they bring the other guy back. Now, over the past few seasons, I've seen that happen a few times at some of the lower some clubs in the lower end of Serie A.
Sorry, I'm just having a look at all the managerial changes from last season. Only three clubs did not change their manager. There is 1, 2, 3. You know what? You carry on. I'm just going to count this out.
No, it was just saying that they have a similar sort of thing in Italy, but the thing they have there is that what you get is that instead of them going on to sign another manager, they will then bring back the guy who was not doing it at the beginning of the season in the hope that, okay, maybe he can, maybe now they've seen that the grass isn't greener, the players, that they might start playing for this guy now, which it rarely works.
I'm already at 42.
Right.
43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56 managerial changes in the Brazilian top flight. Last season.
I'd be interested to know who's the longest serving manager then. I suppose it's out of the 3 that remain, isn't it?
Yes.
I've been here 6 months.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been here 24 hours. I'm now the longest serving manager in Brazil. So if you think it's silly season for us, it isn't. It really isn't.
It's not been that bad this year, is it?
No, there have only been 3 managerial changes in the Premier League. But if you go further down the leagues, particularly one club comes to mind, High Salford City. You've sacked 2 managers. They sacked who was at the start? Was it Neil Alexander?
Graham Alexander.
Graham Alexander.
Then
they brought in Richie Wellens from Swindon. He was sacked recently, and now they brought in Gary Rowett, who was an outside, an external choice to be the manager of that club. So it's an interesting rule for Brazilian football because they do go through managers like that, like for instance, they go through managers. I was going to say they go through managers like Sam Allardyce goes through Greg Sausage Rolls, and it is far more cutthroat than the English game, and you often see big teams get relegated, for instance, and really struggle because even the biggest teams have been relegated, like Corinthians, for instance, and they've been relegated in their history. So I don't think we're as bad, but would that rule? Because if you look at Sheffield United when they got rid of Wilder, they promoted from within. Celtic when they got rid of Lennon, brought in somebody from within. Preston have appointed somebody from within now. I'm just trying to think. Were there any other people? But I don't. Generally, it seems
Bournemouth.
to be Bournemouth. Yeah, they promoted from within. Well, to be fair, they promoted from within, and then they promoted from within. Because their manager at the start of the season was a promotion from within. Yeah. And then Jonathan Woodgate was a promotion from within. So, they've gone that route. But yeah, I don't see this rule being needed for... I think this... You know where this rule would do very well? It would do well at Real Madrid. Just let them...
They promoted from within.
Let Real Madrid... And actually, to be fair, Zidane was a promotion from within. But when they decide to bring in...
I suppose he left, didn't he? He left.
Oh, yeah, he did. Actually, he did left. He did leave. And he came back. So, actually, I'm going to count that as an external appointment. Just let... Everybody else can do as they please. Real Madrid, Barcelona. That rule applies to you now. Can't wait for, Sergio Ramos to be Real Madrid caretaker manager until the end of the season because they've sacked 2 managers already.
I love that idea.
Well, you were the one that said, "Oh, you'd love the absolute Ithousery."
Yeah.
SH Ithousery. That's Sergio
Oh, sorry.
Ramos.
Are we not allowed to drop swears? I think I did earlier.
No. I got an email
sure
from Twitch saying no.
No swears. Okay.
But the Ithousery. I mean, you can let 1 or 2 slip out. That's fine. But the absolute housery of Sergio Ramos, for instance, as manager of Real Madrid. I mean, we've talked about the comedy that would be. That would be quite funny for us.
It'd be beautiful. I'm absolutely here for it. I feel like he would be the type of manager who would just be kind of like on the edge of his technical area and just trip the winger as they go past. Like, that's absolutely the type of thing he would do.
And then he would stand there like Sam Allardyce going...
or he'd go down, holding his face. He punched me!
Like Rivaldo at the 2002 World Cup when he pretended the ball hit his face when he was waiting to take a corner. Love that. Don't think that, yes or no on that rule?
I don't think we need it in England yet. It may be something that's kind of one of those things to keep in your back pocket, but I don't know. And it might just be me kind of like remembering things wrong, but it does feel like over the past few years there haven't been as many managerial changes as there had been previously, but and that may be down to the fact that actually managers' contracts are getting a lot more expensive to pay out than they were before, and clubs are starting to kind of watch their coffers a little bit, especially like in a sort of post-COVID world. And the clubs are missing out on funds and stuff, and they're not as willing to just kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, to say. So, well, I mentioned Mourinho before. That's, if you think about the kind of the run Spurs have had since Christmas, you would usually see the manager there'd have been a change really by that point, wouldn't there? How Arteta, the run that Arteta had before Christmas, normally, in previous years, that you'd have seen, most clubs would have maybe, to be fair, it's Arsenal, they just do whatever. It doesn't ever make any sense or fall in line with anything else. They just do whatever. So maybe they wouldn't conform to that anyway. But after a run like that, you would generally tend to see a manager get sacked. I think, was it Liverpool have won going into today's game? Was it they've lost 6 of their last 8? Again, there'd be questions over the manager. But I suppose Klopp has just won the league for the
first time in 30 years. So
maybe, and he's won the Champions League, so there's maybe a bit of state of execution there and stuff in that sense. But it does seem that clubs are maybe taking a minute, taking a breath, and going, do you know what? It's a crazy season, so we don't have to do it as much. But even in previous seasons, I think it does feel like this less. But that might just, like I said, that might just be me. Remembering it slightly differently with some weird rose tinted glasses on. Yeah, we're much better now.
Yeah. I mean,
do you know what the problem is?
Yeah, not much to say other than that. Just stop sacking managers left, right, and centre. Give a manager time. Although saying that, I've been saying sack John Sheridan every week on Swindon 105.5 drive time 4 till 6 p.m.
I was surprised you didn't say it earlier.
Yes.
I was surprised you didn't say it before.
My feelings are well known on the British broadcasting. If you listen to the radio locally, you'll hear that I dedicate songs to the managers, such as JoJo's Leave, Get Out, Will Young's Leave Right Now, any Loser by oh Jesus, I'm a music guy and I forgot the name of the song. Loser by I forgot the name of the.
I want to say Wheatus, but that's Teenage Dirtbag.
I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the song.
Go on, look at you, sat there with a Daft Punk t-shirt on. Who's the Daft Punk now, Dan?
Just me. No, I'm a mug. It's Beck, by the way.
There we go.
It's Beck. I didn't have to Google that. I did. Let's move on. The Eddie Howe.
That Eddie Howe.
The Eddie.
The Eddie Howe. Not any Eddie Howe. The Edward
You know what?
Howe.
After saying that, we need Bruce Buffer from the boxing world, or get his brother from the UFC to do it as well. Get Michael Buffer as well. Either Bruce or Michael. It either works. I mean, I love Bruce Buffer doing the boxing. I love Michael Buffer doing the UFC. Either of them.
Does Michael bring something different?
His is far. It's Wade. He doesn't say let's get ready to rumble.
Because he's not allowed.
No, actually, no. He can because he co-owns that trademark. Because he's the one who trademarked. He trademarked it. Because he's Michael Buffer is actually Bruce Buffer's manager.
Fair play.
There's, by the way, a fascinating story that is not relevant to this show. How Bruce Buffer was adopted, and Michael Buffer was like, that guy. People have said, "Oh, are you related to that guy?" And then his dad goes, "Yeah, he's your long lost brother." So there you go. So BT Sport explains it all. But yeah, that's for the boxing fan show. Whoever wants to, or the UFC or MMA fan show, whoever wants to do that, have that on me.
It's on straight after us.
Yeah, it's on straight after us on a different channel, and who cares? The Eddie Howe, let's get ready for Celtic, is apparently where he's going. But it has led to an argument from Talk Sport this week. And I do love Talk Sport.
An argument from Talk Sport?
An argument
like them.
I know, exactly. It's so rare. I love Talk Sport for this utter tripe that sometimes they put out. So
balanced.
The website says, big claim. Winning the title with Celtic is like winning an egg race. TalkSport host says Eddie Howe better off managing Crystal Palace than taking the Parkhead job. And it's led to the speculation, well, the question that I'm going to ask, I'm going to say, I think, I'm trying to find out who said it. Was it Cundy? Was it Jason Cundy? Was it? Oh no, I think it was Jamie O'Hara.
That's even worse.
Speaking. Oh no, sorry. So it was Jason Gundy. He said, "I think the club that he needs is Palace, and for him personally, I think that's a better job. Where do you go from Celtic? Name the manager who have gone from Celtic to manage a big club. Brendan Rodgers has gone to Leicester and done a fabulous job, but where do you go after that? Chelsea, Man City, Manchester United, or actually just make Leicester a top 4 club, which he's done. So they're kind of on a par. Crystal Palace is a nice project. Winning at Celtic is like winning an egg race. If you get Palace into European football, that's a bigger achievement than winning a title with Celtic. I mean, okay, so the headline of the article missells what he actually says. It's misquoting him. What he says is, if you get Palace into European football, that's a bigger achievement than winning a title with Celtic. And you know what? On that statement alone, I completely concur.
Yeah, yes, it is. But if he goes to Palace, he's not going to get backed financially to go out and get the players he wants to get. The expectation for them to get European football is non-existent. It's their expectations. It's a million miles away. Yeah, if he goes to Palace, it'd be the same as being at Bournemouth. The expectations are basically the same. Stay in the Premier League. There's not even an expectation to have a cup run, because it's all about staying in the Premier League. Keep the club, keep the money coming into the club to keep us up here, to keep us eating at the top table. Yeah, we might not be in all the best, the prime cuts from the top table, but we're still up here. If he goes to Celtic, he'll have a tougher job now, because Steven Gerrard has made Rangers a genuine challenger. They've absolutely blown Celtic out of the water this season. But it means they'll have tough matches against them at least. But what he will get, which he won't get, he absolutely won't get with Palace for some time is he'll automatically have that opportunity to get a side into Europe, whether that's the Champions League or whether that's Europa League. But that's experience that he's not going to get at Palace for a while for a while or at all. So at least he knows by going there, right, I'm going to be able to cut my teeth in European competition.
Yeah. Go on.
And you could, and I can see where they're looking at a manager who's been in the Prem, got a good reputation. It's not quite what it's ended with his previous club with things not working out, but they know that he's the style of football he wants to play fits with them. And they know that he's good at using homegrown talent and that, and he'll build a team of homegrown players. And the fact that they are Celtic means that they're going to have the pick of the players within the SPL. So from that perspective, it's good for Celtic. It's probably better for the Scottish national team and stuff as well. They've got a progressive young manager who's there who plays good football. That'll knock on for him there. And like I said, for Eddie Howe, he's got the opportunity to go and take a team into Europe, which he's just not going to get that with Palace.
No, that's for sure. I should say what Jamie O'Hara said on social media after seeing this bit from Jason Cundy. He did say that I have to. So this is what Jamie O'Hara said on social media. I have to say, after my Bournemouth shout and seeing what Gerrard has done in Scotland, I have to disagree with this. Celtic and Rangers are huge, and the fans worldwide, I didn't realise how big they were. Rodgers went from Liverpool to Celtic. He wouldn't have gone to Palace.
Yeah, and the thing as well is what you had to take into account as well, and why it's good. And for Rodgers going from Liverpool, where the expectations are high, even before Klopp was there, Liverpool as a club expect to be challenging for the league, competing in Europe, competing on all four fronts every single year. That is what they expect as a minimum. Celtic is no different. They expect they expect to win the league. And
yeah.
And you know what, that might be the real big challenge for Eddie Howe as well, because he's come from his career has been either, let's try and get up to the Premiership. Let's try. Bournemouth is a very nice club and everything. The expectations aren't like sky high, so it's let's just stay in the league. And the type of pressure and the environment, the pressure that he would be under would be very, very different from a Celtic where the fans expect you to win every game. They expect you to play good football, and they expect you to win that league. So for him to go there, that's a real test of his mettle. To be honest, the league itself outside, there's nothing outside Celtic and Rangers, but having that expectation, having that opportunity for European football, a bit of a no-brainer, really.
But is it? Because this article from the Scottish Sun, the Celtic. So it says, as its title, Celtic fans want Howe to be Rodgers 2.0, and then they argue through this article that he could easily be the next Tony Mowbray, in which that he was appointed in July, sacked by March, and replaced with Neil Lennon. I don't think Eddie Howe is going to be replaced by Neil Lennon, but this is from Chris Boyd who says this, but that's who the Scottish Sun attribute this, because of the intense pressure and scrutiny, as you were alluding to, regarding Celtic, and that even an ex-player of the club like Tony Mowbray didn't understand that as manager. I would just argue that Tony Mowbray just isn't a very good manager, and I think anybody, when he was managing West Brom, and I was having a chat about this, managers that have managed once in the Premier League and then lived off that the rest of their careers. Tony Mowbray, Phil Brown comes to mind, Ian Holloway, who else? There are anyway. It's besides the point. But he is
loads of them.
Yeah, there's loads. There's too many to remember. To be fair, he didn't. I was gonna say, like, did he actually have a job after Palace? I think. Did he have a job after Palace? I think he had one, but he sucked at it. I can't remember who it was though. He was caretaker manager. He was a caretaker manager in the Premier League, and I can't remember who he was caretaker manager of. Might have been QPR.
And I mean, QPR is just a car crash, though, isn't it? So.
Oh yeah, they've always been a. Who was he the caretaker manager of? Who was it? Charlton Athletic.
I'll find out.
Charlton Athletic. 2006, he was caretaker boss of Charlton Athletic.
Was that after?
That was after Palace.
After Pardew got sacked on Christmas Eve, wasn't it?
Yeah. So. Yeah, he ended up signing Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank, and Scott Carson, but he was unable to avoid relegation after the success of Alan Kirbishley, and Alan Pardew was indeed manager.
I mean, to be fair though, so look here. So he was caretaker at QPR in '98, Oldham Athletic manager 2002-2003, Palace 03 to 06, as you say, Charlton Athletic in 06. Coventry City, 07-08, QPR again in 2008, Hull City football management consultant in 2010.
That's when you know you've made it. That's when you know, like the Alan Pardew level. Like isn't he director of football now at CSKA Sofia in Bulgaria?
He is, but
he has made it.
Football management consultant. That says to me that they've gone. Ian, can you just do like 5 games for us, please? We've got no intention of keeping you on as manager. We just need a different title in there for the tax man.
Thank you very much. But I don't see Eddie Howe being Tony Mowbray, another Tony Mowbray at Celtic. I think it might take him more than a season. I think Rangers probably will win back-to-back league titles, because I think it takes more than a season to manage a club like Rangers or Celtic. Look how long it took, look how long it took Steven Gerrard to take Rangers from the second best team in Scotland to now the best team in Scotland, and they were second best by a long margin, by a big margin, because Celtic were just so dominant that Rangers were the best of the rest. Well, they weren't even the best of the rest. They were the best second place team, and then whoever finished third was the best of the rest. So Celtic were in a league of their own. Rangers.
If you look at when Rodgers left, they put Neil Lennon back in, and since leaving Celtic the first time, he'd done nothing.
Yeah.
He went to Bolton, was
failed.
Poor.
Hibernian. He did all right at Hibs. He did okay at Hibs until he got himself in trouble.
Okay at Hibs.
Well, he got them promoted from the Scottish Championship to the Premiership, and I think they were about 4th or 5th, which is good for Hibs.
Okay, but still okay.
It's okay, yeah.
And there's an element as well that I think that football management now it feels like the cycle of managers and the style and everything is quicker. So in the sense that like Arsene Wenger had been at Arsenal for 22 years and by the time he left, as much as he was an innovator when he came in, it was time for him to go, and because he'd become a little bit of a dinosaur, he's very set in his ways. Jose Mourinho, you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, hasn't really been. It doesn't feel like he's been around for that long, but already people are starting to say like his tactics really outdated now. Like he's now been seen as a bit of a dinosaur, And Neil Lennon, for me, Celtic had evolved under Rodgers so much as a side, and playing the way that they did under him, in the style that Rodgers likes to play. Then Lennon coming back in would be such a massive step back for those players that it's clearly like that gap that was between them and Rangers, just taking Rodgers out and putting Lennon in has just gone and made it seesaw the other way. Putting Eddie Howe in might bring it back up a bit, but yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he'll go in and necessarily win it straight away. I think it'll be closer. But the thing I would question, is really his kind of real like passion and desire. Because everything I have ever seen of him, he always because he's so calm and laid back, it feels like he's not the type of person to really inspire you. And I might be completely wrong. It's just that's kind of the vibe I get off of him when you watch interviews and things. That he's all like, if you lose a game, he's going to be like, oh well, you tried. Here's your participation medal, rather than really like have a go and fix it and try and fire those players up.
I completely agree with you, and I will use two examples to illustrate your point further. Look at the time that the Monday Night Football, Jamie Carragher was opposite Eddie Howe, and then you watch the one where he's opposite Mauricio Pochettino. Now, Mauricio Pochettino, both managers looking to get back into work. Mauricio Pochettino used that show for what it was, a job interview, an advert to sell his managerial services to a club. Eddie Howe did not do that. He did not sell himself well. He talked about Bournemouth in kind of the same way that you were describing, saying, it's just a bad day at the office kind of thing. Whereas Poch was able to go, well, that was wrong, that was wrong, that was wrong. I didn't do, I did this right, I did this right. But Eddie was going, well, we did this wrong, this wrong, this. He was pointing out his faults and not focusing on his positives. Whereas Poch was like, this is what I did for Tottenham. This is why I should be this club's next manager. This is why I should have been linked with Manchester United, PSG, and then gone on to manage PSG. Eddie Howe didn't do that. Yeah. And whenever an out-of-work manager or a just fresh out-of-work manager appears on Monday Night Football, my advice, use it for what it is. It is an advert to sell you as a manager.
100%.
And Eddie Howe did not do that. Poch did. Go watch them. They're on the Sky Sports YouTube channel. Poch does a brilliant job of selling his managerial credibility, whereas Howe just undersells himself and undervalues himself, and it's really annoying.
He's just really British.
It's really annoying.
He's like, look, I don't want to go on Monday Night Football and make a big song and dance about myself because that would be like pushing to the front of the queue. I'm going to go on, I'll talk about the game, and then I'll get to the back of the queue and wait for a job to come up.
What does he want to do? Listen to Vivaldi's Spring on the Universal Credit Helpline? Is that what it gets down to? Like a really poor rendering of that song? Jeez, sell yourself, mate. That's stand on a bloody street corner, dole yourself up. But anyway, that really irritated me. But it illustrates your point about Eddie Howe, and it really annoyed me. But he is the favourite for the Celtic job. It's going to happen. I called it ages ago. I think it was the obvious choice. Frank Lampard's not even in the top 5 anymore. That would have also been the most interesting appointment. But I think the safe bet is Eddie Howe. You know what? I'm going to say quickly on Lampard. I don't see him managing again.
No,
I think he'll be done. I think he's like, well, I've managed at the top. I managed Chelsea.
Do you think that's what all he wanted to do was just manage Chelsea for
unless City come calling?
He's not got. They're not, are they?
I mean, they're never going to come calling for him. So
he needs to go if he's. Yeah.
Why would he come back? I would argue that he got hard done by at Chelsea. But then he made his own errors in the transfer market, so he kind of reaped what he sowed.
Well, no, but like we said before, on paper, if you say I'm going to go out and buy Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, you go, mate, that's brilliant. That's Football Manager transfer shopping list, isn't it? You're going to go out, you're going to pick up these 3 players, and we're going to blow everyone away next season. I mean, the reality obviously is those players didn't settle, and there'll be loads of different reasons as to why, but I think one of the big things for Lampard was that when things didn't go right, instead of trying to protect his players, he would just throw them under the bus all the time.
Because that's what Mourinho would do.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, at that point in time, when Mourinho did that at Chelsea with him, when he was there, Mourinho was at the height of his powers, and Chelsea were financially the strongest side out there. They had so much clout, and if Mourinho turned around and said, "Joe Cole's not doing it," he could whip him off, and he could whack Iron Robin on, or he could go out and just buy someone else, and it'd be Joe Cole who. Do you know what I mean? So he was in a position at that point where he wasn't far off. He wasn't that long coming off of a Champions League win himself with Porto. He was a god. He could do whatever he wanted, and the media lapped it up. And Chelsea was so strong that everything he said, everyone went, "Yeah, this is fucking bang on." But Lampard has had one season at Derby, and then he's had a difficult season at Chelsea where they weren't allowed to make transfers, and he did well with a young squad. Brought some good players through.
Yeah, he did a great job.
And brought some young players through and everything. But I don't think he'd done enough. So he hadn't kind of got to a position where he can start chucking players under the bus for that. And also, it's said time and time again, like the mentality of players is different now. And as much as Frank's not been retired all that long in the grand scheme of things, those players have changed so much. And yeah, and that throwing him under the bus and having a go and calling him out in front of everybody doesn't seem to work as much for anybody anymore. Like all these players, a lot of these players need that arm around the shoulder, massage their ego to get them playing again. That whole the whole stick treatment doesn't work anymore. So for him as a young manager coming through, to immediately go back to quite an old school, not even old school an old school technique.
Yeah, it is old school.
It's all the players and it's not him. It makes it look like a bit like in the same. I feel the same about Thierry Henry. As much as I love him as a player, as a manager, I think he's horrific because they look at the players and they go, "Well, I would have done this. Why aren't you doing what I would have done? Why can't you do things as well as I could have done them?" And when you do, as soon as you start doing that, the frustrations boil over, and you're gonna lose their respect, and you're not gonna be able to manage a cohesive team. Which is why Henry has been a bad manager, and why why the wheels fell off for Lampard towards the end. I think you can't just keep saying that's about the players every time you lose a game or concede a goal.
I think it's all right to have a go at players, but. And I use a big but here. So if you get a team from, say, the National League into League 2, and your minimum requirement is to stay in League 2, and you far surpass that, then as a manager, I would tell the media, well, our goal is to just stay in League 2. If we get enough points, if we stay up by 1 point, I'm happy. Beyond that, all credit doesn't go to me, goes to the players. Anything we achieve beyond that is down to the players. I would give that to them. So say if you were expected to get relegated and you got promoted. You finished third or second or something. That I would say, that's not me, that's the players. That is the players. Yeah. Okay, yeah, maybe it's my tactics, but they're the ones that are going out and expressing their creativity and freedom to be able to play the way that they are. And that's why we've achieved what we've achieved. So it's maybe slight tactics, but it's always the players. So I'm all right with throwing players under the bus if you're struggling and you're down and you're like, they're not playing to expectation. But if they play beyond expectation, then you have to then give that credit. It's a double-edged sword, so to speak.
I think it's because he quite, when you're questioning their commitment and their passion for the game and stuff, it's like you're going to get, the players are just going to go, get lost. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I don't want to play for you. And then as well, like if you think about the squad as a whole, it wasn't harmonious. If you think you've got important senior players like Rudiger and Alonso, who have been mainstays within that team for the last God knows how many years, and yeah, they're getting older, but they're still senior players who've like earned the respect. Who've won trophies with the side and everything, and he comes in and just absolutely ostracises them. And then even to a certain extent, he brought in Fikayo Tomori, played him loads, he's doing really well, singing his praises. I think he had an injury, didn't he? And then like he could never get anywhere near the side again, and he farms him out, and then he gets farmed out to AC Milan on loan. So where he's doing really well by all accounts, so I want to make it perm, but. I don't know. He feels like it's a little bit of like he's done. I think with the senior players, he's tried to do what Mourinho did, and he's made an example. He made an example of them. And it's you look at the moment Tuchel came back in. What did he do? He brought all those players back in. Obviously.
Yeah.
He brought all those players back in, and then suddenly the the morale within the side is clearly better, and the results picked up, apart from today, of course.
Yeah, apart from today, but yeah, it can't argue otherwise. Let's move on to the. I've got the perfect job for Frank Lampard. Should he want to, but we're going to get to it a bit later. We're going to ask. We're going to play a game at about 9:30. Based on an old BBC reality TV show. Are you aware of The Sound of Music, Liam? Of course you're aware of The Sound of Music. Everyone's heard of The Sound of Music, right?
Yes, you mean like you on about the Saturday night show where they were looking for
where they had how do you solve a problem like Maria? Well, at 9:30 we're going to play How do you solve a problem like Agüero. We're gonna play How do you solve a problem like Agüero, coming up at 9:30. Few more things to cover before then. Chat about the England results midweek. We've got to talk about Republic of Ireland. They lost 1-0 to Luxembourg. I then ran a poll on our Twitter page at TFFS Live. I asked Ireland fans, do you have faith in Stephen Kenny as Ireland manager? 25% said yes, 75% no. And then there is even a comment underneath that says, I don't have faith in the FAI. Never mind the manager. So this is we'll only spend about 2 minutes on this one, but it's an absolutely embarrassing defeat for the Republic of Ireland.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Luxembourg. I mean, so put a bit of context behind Luxembourg. Is it in the last 5 years or so they've gone from something like 100th or 98th in the rankings and jumped up to like 50th? Is that
they have
right?
They have, to be fair to them, dramatically improved Luxembourg. They have really got. They've started to build themselves up.
And you'll probably find that that's probably largely down to the Nations League, which personally I think is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, you can't lose to Luxembourg.
You want to know what you can't also do after losing 1-0 to Luxembourg? Draw 1-1 with Qatar. Yeah,
but Qatar again, they've put a lot of money and everything into their setup, and they've improved massively. Did they win the Asian Cup or something the other year or something like that? I might be wrong, but I think I heard that on another podcast. So. They are.
Yes, they are the current champions. Qatar are the current champions. Yes, of the AFC Nations Cup.
Yeah, so there's and that's not me saying that that's a massively high international standard or anything, but that's an achievement there. So they've obviously improved.
You're playing Korea, you're playing South Korea, you're playing Japan, you're playing Australia. Those are some pretty damn good teams. Like by their comparison, maybe you've got Saudi Arabia. They've been in the World Cup a couple of times. Who else?
They have, yeah.
China. Just trying to think now. Other than that, it's the Saudis, China, Japan, South Korea, Australia.
But they also, on top of that, Qatar are an incredibly small nation as well.
And that's also.
So they've obviously improved, but Republic of Ireland. They're in a bad place. I thought I was having a conversation with a friend about this a little while ago, and normally what you see when England start to do well and produce more players is actually the rest of the home nations improve as well, because of the fact that there's grandparents and things from different parts of the British Isles, and that means that if you look back in like for me, for instance, I would qualify to play for Ireland. So if I was a decent player, I could have played for the Republic. Same with yourself.
Yeah.
And in those times, to look at people like Tony Cascarino, weren't even Irish in the end. But
they found a way though.
Yeah, when they can find a link into this, if there's
a will, there's a way.
Yeah, if there's a surplus of players, effectively, which you would, but I think what you see a lot at the moment with England is a lot of those players are getting picked off by like Nigeria, and I think Jamaica have been offering out opportunities to a handful of players recently as well. And they're really doing their job there, and maybe the FAI are kind of missing out on that. Because I would imagine there's probably a lot of players who are decent and would do good jobs for him, but can't make it into the England squad.
Well, if you look at two great examples of two fantastic Irish players that could have played for Ireland, that were a part of the Irish youth setup, that picked another team, Declan Rice, Jack Grealish.
Yeah, exactly. And and there'll be plenty of other players like that as well that they could probably they could get to move over. But you got a question: are they doing? Or are they taking a stance? If they're taking a stance of no, you have to have been born in Ireland or played through the age groups with us or anything before we select you or whatever. If it's something like that, then fair enough. And if they're being real, like, no, this is what we want to do, and conveying that message to everyone, then you could be like, all right, fair enough. But they're not doing that. It just feels like they're just real stagnant. They're not getting those players coming through. And McCarthy, to be fair, left him in the lurch a bit, didn't he? Because he was supposed to go after the Euros, but then when it was delayed, he went, I'm off now.
Well, his contract, to be fair to him, his contract ran out. He was only a one-term manager. He was only meant to manage one campaign before Stephen Kenny, the current Ireland boss, who was the under-21 boss. I think they looked at England and went, well, they took Gareth Southgate from England under-21s to England manager, and they reached the semi-final. So if we take Stephen Kenny, our under-21 manager, and replace and make him senior boss, then those young players are going to come through, and we might have a chance of qualifying.
Yeah, and that's it's not a like-for-like thing that you can just do, is it?
No, absolutely not.
And do you know what? They've tried it. It's clearly not working so far. But the question, do you stick or twist?
I mean, you don't want a Steve Staunton situation, because he was terrible.
Without knowing a lot about what's going on in Irish international football, like, it does seem like for a long time now that they've been fairly stagnant.
Yeah,
and I think somebody said the other day that it says a lot when your best player is a 32-year-old right back.
That's what Roy Keane said on ITV. He talked about
Keane.
Yeah,
exactly. He
was talking about that, and that's exactly what he said. He said it says a lot when your best player is a 32-year-old right back playing in the Premier League, and he's their only Premier League player because the rest of them play in the Championship or League One. Because
David McGoldrick.
I mean, rarity, but he was Roy Keane was arguing that the majority of Irish players play in the Championship or League One.
Right. He's absolutely right there, and they're just. If you think back to, and I know obviously this is a long time ago, but you think back to like USA '94 when you had like Houghton, Staunton.
Well, I was going to say, you bring that up. I've just finished watching the Jack Charlton documentary, and you see the amount of English-born players in that team, and even a kid asked Jack Charlton, "Are you just a bunch of mercenaries playing for money?" Even though I don't think you get paid for international football, but a child still asks him.
Oh yeah, you do.
I think you get paid a fee, but normally you're meant to give it to charity. That's the tradition. Yeah. You get paid a retainer or something, but you're meant to give it to charity. But yeah, they're like the look of utter outrage on Jack Charlton's face when this 5 or 6-year-old child asked him, "Are you just a bunch of mercenaries?" was his face was of thunder. He would have been like Mortal Kombat, ripped his spine from his body and finish him, and that would have been it. But yeah, you talk about the and even their best player. Jack Charlton didn't even like Ireland's best player at that time, which was O'Leary, David O'Leary. That's who he wouldn't call up. He wouldn't call him up, and he just said, "I'll call him up when I need him." And apparently, when he scored that penalty, even though he later admitted, Jack Charlton, that he actually looked away when he saw O'Leary step up. He apparently goes to him in the dressing room and shakes his hand and goes, "I knew you wouldn't miss," and then he moved on. So he was a bit old school, but let's quickly have a look at who might be the next Republic of Ireland manager if Stephen Kenny were to go. Roy Keane. Roy Keane is the current favourite at 9-2, considering he's just been Republic of Ireland assistant manager. I don't think he's what they need.
No,
I don't
terrible
think.
idea.
Neil Lennon is 6-1 to be the former Northern Ireland player, but from a Catholic family.
Another terrible idea.
Yes. I don't think any of the likely people that they're putting forward...
What about the Eddie Howe?
Eddie Howe is not in the running. Keith Andrews, Robbie Keane, 7-1. Damien Duff is 8-1. Steve Bruce, 12-1.
Such a nice man.
Chris Hughton, 12-1. Chris Hughton's not a bad shout because he is a former Republic of Ireland player.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like a bad shout at all. In the sense that I think he'll make them difficult to break down.
Oh, the Eddie Howe was 25-1.
Of course he was.
Shall we have a look at the Mauricio Pochettino's 40-1? That's silly season.
Liverpool have just gone ahead. Jota scored 1-0.
Right. I'm just waiting. Oh yeah, I've just seen that. Yeah, Diogo Jota with the goal 1-0 to. Sorry, mate. Sorry, that deflates Arsenal fans. Right. Quickly before we play our
his laptop.
Yeah, clams down his laptop, and then I'm left to play How Do You Solve a Problem like Agüero by myself. Right, let's quickly go through England. 5-0 against San Marino, 2-0 against Albania, 2-1 against Poland. Perfect start. 3 wins from 3. Fantastic. Okay, no more really to be said on that, unless you want to add anything.
I think we're a bit boring with all that. We've got a lot of attacking flair, and we don't really seem to be particularly exciting. No,
we're just standard. It's just standard. I think when we play better teams, I think it will get more exciting. But when you're playing in the qualifiers, I don't think you don't need to play the most exciting football when you're playing against San Marino, Albania, and Poland. You can put in a pretty bog standard performance and still get away with it. So.
Yeah,
and 2-1 against Poland is I'm going to suggest this, even though Poland have some good players, it's kind of getting away with it. Probably should have been 3-1. We should have beaten them got a 2-goal margin, I think, in every single game. So we got that against Albania. We definitely got that against San Marino. We did not get that against Poland.
Yeah, it just felt it just looked a bit kind of flat. Yeah, exactly that. And I think if you think back to the last World Cup, like, it was amazing for the country. We loved it. It was, what summer it was. But if you look at the performances and you look at how the goals that we scored, we really heavily relied on set pieces, and we don't need to do that. We've got some incredible players, and the worry that I have is that he'll pick the right ones to take with him, because the fact that Lingard's having a bit of return to form at the moment, and then suddenly he's like straight back into the England squad, and you've got to go, we've moved beyond him now. We've got much better players in there, and I just wonder about how he sets us up, and that is he as a manager, is he expansive enough to get the most and the best out of the players that we've got? That's my concern. I'm not saying Southgate out or anything by any stretch of the imagination. I just
I know what you mean.
See a bit more.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get what you mean. Right, quickly before we play our game, we've got 5 minutes to talk about this. England under-21s, according to... they had a really poor European Championship tournament, led by Aidy Boothroyd, who is another manager, by the way, who I feel is living off that one time in the Premier League, Watford.
Yeah.
And he's gone on to very, very little success. The Young Lions exited the European Under-21 Championship, and I'm going to say it's back to talk sport again, with one of their pundits saying that we have a squad that is the envy of Europe, but we are being led by the wrong man, a defeatist, Aidy Boothroyd. I'm trying to find out who says that so I can accredit it to them. I believe it was the old not the West Ham, Crystal Palace owner who's on TalkSport.
Simon Jordan.
Simon Jordan. I believe it was Simon Jordan who said that. If I'm wrong, don't at me in the comments. But I believe it was Simon Jordan. Well, they got a video of him saying it, so I'm pretty sure it's Simon Jordan. But yes, the UEFA European Under-21 Championships currently being held in Hungary and Slovenia. England are out of the group stage. They were out of the group stage. They finished bottom of their group. Currently, the quarterfinals are set to be played, and then we'll have that's in May, by the way, the quarterfinals, and then we'll have the semi-finals in June, and the final 3 days later after those semi-finals. So it's being split up because of COVID. But England finishing bottom of the group. Let's just go through their results quickly. They lost 1-0 to Switzerland. They lost 2-0 to Portugal, and they beat Croatia by 2-1. So at least next time when we face Croatia in a World Cup semi-final, we might actually win. Although the problem is we may not actually get out the group. So AD Boothroyd is clearly not the right manager. I'm not even going to... Should we even argue this? Because he's clearly not.
No. I don't... What I don't understand is how he's been getting away with not playing the same way as the first team.
That's exactly what an under-21 manager should do. They should.
That's what he's there for.
Yeah, exactly. From like under-17 level, they should replicate the same style so that it's easier for the players to integrate themselves into that job. Now, I've always thought that instead of having a great manager as the under-21 boss, which clearly we don't have, we've never had, and I think the last one with international experience was Gareth Southgate. I feel that having a manager that has international playing experience is better than a manager, say, that's managed in the Premier League 15 years ago. So hence why my favourite for the job, which is not there, Chris Powell. He has always been the person that I would have appointed under-21 manager when Gareth Southgate made the switch. He's somebody that I believe is an incredibly underrated manager. Doesn't get a fair crack of the whip. Maybe it's because of he's not white. Maybe if you want to play that
quite
game,
possibly.
There have been some very good managers that Paul Ince would do a good job with the under-21s. I still think he'd be a good manager, Paul Ince, but those days have gone. But yeah, Chris Powell would obviously be my number one choice to be England under-21 manager because, one, he's played at a top level in the Premier League, so he knows how to play at a top level. He's managed at a decent level, Championship, League One into the Championship. But more importantly than that, he played for England. He's got England caps. So, okay, it might not be as many as Gareth Southgate or, say, a Frank Lampard, but I'd like to see him get that job. The favourite is definitely not going to take it, and the favourite, I just said his name, Frank Lampard. Not going to happen.
I heard that Joe Cole was
Joe Cole is one of the names. He's currently he's 12-1. Lampard's 5-1.
And also as well, Dan Mo Salah just scored a couple of minutes ago for Liverpool. It's 2-0.
Oh yeah, so, you can see it, by the way, on the video printer on the stream. Yeah, it does say Mo Salah on the 68th minute. I'm trying to read the video printer, but it's in really small writing on my screen. Yeah, it's 2-0. Sorry, Mo Salah. So, back to England under-21s quickly.
I'd like to see a bit of...
You want somebody who's played, that knows that pressure. You don't necessarily need a great manager. You just need somebody
who's been around
who's been through that process.
Gareth Southgate, when he was under 21's manager, was like, I want them. They need to have the tournament experience. They need to understand like the pressure and life between the games and all of that sort of stuff. And I think you're right. It needs to be somebody who's played at international level, who's played in a World Cup or Euros, that knows that and knows what it's like to be in that situation, because there's the downtime and you haven't got all your stuff there, and maybe your family's not there or whatever, and being able to learn to cope and stay focused throughout, and relax when you need to, but focus when you need to throughout those periods. So definitely you need somebody who's had that experience. But also I think you want somebody who's got experience with young players.
Yes.
And working with young players, meaning that that hopefully that they understand them, because like I said before, players are very different now than they were 5-10 years ago. So it's definitely important to have somebody in there that gets them. And if you think as well, in that under 21s, there's a lot of 18, 19-year-olds and everything. They're still kids. So somebody that can handle that and kind of help them to kind of come to terms with being so young and having the expectations of a nation in there on your shoulders, and but still being able to go out and play freely, and that's what they need. They need to be able to play freely, and I think that's the problem with the obviously the under 21s this time, but also the first team as well. They don't feel free; they feel constricted.
Yeah, because when I look at some of the names being linked to the job, I'm not filled with confidence when people with zero international experience. Chris Wilder's 12-1. No, non-starter. Okay, you've got Justin Cochrane, who never played international football. He is the current under-17s manager. I believe didn't they win the World Cup, the under-17s?
Yeah, when Foden and that were.
Yeah. So that was the previous under-17s manager. But this is a player. This is a guy that did play international football, but not for England. He played for Antigua and Barbuda, but he had an extensive playing career through England's lower leagues, but never played in the Premier League, for instance. So, say Rushton and Diamonds are on his rap sheet, for instance. Boreham Wood, Hayes and Yeading, Millwall, Yeovil, Gillingham, Crewe, QPR, which is where he started his career. He only played one game for them, but that is not despite knowing those players and promoting from within, that is not a name that fills me with confidence. Although,
yeah, it's not inspiring, is it?
No, it's not an inspiring choice. And then you look at the third favourite, who's Jody Morris, who's currently he's the former Chelsea player who did play for England under 21s 7 times, but never played for the national team. That is not, to me, an inspiring choice. You want somebody with senior caps, which is why Frank Lampard might be a good choice, where John Terry, even though he's a bit of a banker with a W, he might also be a good choice, except he'll probably try and sleep with the players' wives. Who else?
I should hope not many of them are married if they're under 21.
Oh, sorry, they're girlfriends until it gets under. Oh, their mums. That'll be it. Their mums. Yeah. It'll be the mums. Yeah, bring that MILF of yours next time I call you into the squad.
I think just going back to Jody Morris, I have a feeling that he was involved with Chelsea's academy and that for quite a long time.
Yes, he was. He was actually. Yeah.
So from a youth perspective,
from a youth development level,
players, that I could see why his name would be put into the hat there. But what you've got to think of as well, though, is realistic appointments. And like you say, like Frank Lampard, just coming off the back of being Chelsea manager, he's not going to be an under 21s coach. He's effectively going, well, you were a Premier League manager, but do you want this youth team manager job? And yeah, it's with the national team, but still a youth team manager job.
Yeah.
Joe Cole hasn't managed a team, as far as I'm aware.
But you don't need a great manager. You just need somebody that's got the experience to say, this is what it's like to play senior international football. Go prove yourselves, and then just replicate Gareth Southgate's style. Just go, if Joe Cole is appointed, just go to Gareth Southgate, say, how do you play? Tell me how you play it. I'll get the under-21s to play it, and that is how we'll play. We'll play the same style that you play so that they can integrate themselves easier. And then the challenge is for them to just care and play well.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing, is it's getting a coach that's going to be on the same page as the manager of the first team. That's the I think that'll be the challenge, because clearly, and they need to set that expectation out, because clearly they haven't done that, and Eddie Bothroyd's gone along and just basically taken a generation of really good players and wasted them.
Yeah, essentially. I'll try and get the England squad up from this tournament, and the most recent squad had Aaron Ramsdale in it, even though it's the under-21s, 22 now, but they had Josh Griffiths, who's a West Brom player on loan currently at League Two Cheltenham, and then they've got Joseph Bursick, who's a Stoke City player on loan on to Doncaster Rovers, so he's loaned to Doncaster. You got Max Aarons, who's a Norwich player. Ben Godfrey at Everton. Mark Guehi, Guehi, Chelsea player on loan at Swansea.
Don't know.
Lloyd Kelly at Bournemouth. Ryan Sessegnon, Hoffenheim. He's in the squad.
Yeah.
On loan from Tottenham. We've got Steven Sessegnon on loan to Bristol from Fulham.
Yeah.
Tagananga. I love that. I just love his name. But I love it when Mourinho says his name. He's just wonderful.
Tanganga, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tanganga.
I just love that documentary. I just love it when he says it. Tottenham. Ben Wilmot, Watford. Todd Cantwell at Norwich. Tom Davies, Everton.
Tom Davies?
Yeah, Tom Davies, Everton. He's 22 years old.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, because you're allowed 3 over 21s, aren't you?
Yeah.
Surprised
Eze from Palace, he was in the recent squad apparently. Conor Gallagher from Chelsea, who's currently playing for West Brom on loan. Curtis Jones from Liverpool, who's 20. Oh my God, he was born in 2001. Jeez. Dwight McNeil, who's Burnley. Yeah. Oliver Skipp, who's on loan at Norwich from Tottenham. Yeah. Rhian Brewster, Sheffield United, who's not doing very well. Mason Greenwood, Manchester United. Yeah. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Chelsea. Noni Madueke from PSV Eindhoven.
Okay.
Who's 19. Emil Smith-Rowe, who's at Arsenal. And then Eddie Nketiah. Ugh, rubbish with names. Nketiah, who's obviously Arsenal, 21. And recent call-ups include Jamal Musiala, who's already decided that he's not going to play for England, he's going to play for Germany. By the way, he was born there, so let him play for whoever the heck he wants.
It's one of those things where we didn't do anything to get him to stay with us. Jurgen Löw rang him, spent time with him, talked him through how he saw his progression through the German national teams, how that would take place, and where he saw him in the future. Yeah. What does Southgate do?
Nothing. He plays for Bayern Munich. He was born in Stuttgart. You know, he's a German speaker. He only moved to England when he was 7, so he knows German culture. And he knows Germany, and he probably feels that Germany is his home, considering that he's been at Bayern Munich for an incredibly long time. Although he's a former Chelsea youth player as well, he spent a long time at Chelsea, but he's been there at Bayern, and he's now had 2 caps for Germany, for the senior team, not even the youth team, the senior German team. But yeah, it's not good for the under-21s. Chris Powell, please take the job. I don't know what you're doing at the moment, but the other names being...
3-0.
Oh, yeah, I've just seen it, yeah.
Jota again.
Yep.
Jota again.
Yeah, they put his full name on this video printer, which is Diogo Jota Teixeira da Silva.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gary Neville, Phil Neville, both 12-1, Nicky Butts 8-1. Yeah, John Terry's 14-1. And then the uninspiring choice, Mark Warburton, at 14-1. Please don't. Right, how do you solve a problem like Agüero is our game. We got 20 minutes to play it. Let's start with the obvious. And by the way, Pep Guardiola has already poured cold water all over this game, because he's already said that it is unlikely that Manchester City will make a big money signing this summer. when Haaland from Borussia Dortmund, who's 20, is the number one target. And despite being a Norwegian footballer, he was born in the most English of places. He's born in Leeds. Lovely. Yeah. Lovely Leeds.
What was Southgate doing about him?
Exactly. But he's been in the Norwegian squad since he was 15. He's been in the under-15s as well. But absolutely. Nicknamed the Terminator by many admirers. This stylish player can be yours for only... I feel like that I'm on QVC at the moment. This stylish player can be yours, Manchester City, for well over 100 million. Probably even closer to 200 million, to be honest. I see him going to United, not City. Haaland. I see him ending up at Old Trafford rather than the Etihad.
From what I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about this. His agent, his agent's Mino Raiola, and he is currently shopping him around, basically going around to all the big clubs that are interested in him and saying these are his list of demands, basically. So, they met with Barcelona the other day.
Barcelona are in for him as well, yeah.
Yeah. Juan Laporta's already kind of come out and said, that's where we want to bring him to Barcelona. So his reps have already been in there talking to him. Obviously, he'd be interested in being at Madrid as well. Apparently, he'd like to play. Apparently, he'd like to play with Odegaard. But also, by the sounds of it, to fund a move for him, Real Madrid would probably have to sell Odegaard. So
yeah,
which might work nicely for Arsenal. Who knows?
Yeah, but, absolutely.
But yeah, he's a massive player. But I think he might end up in Spain.
Yeah, I think if he's going to come to England, I think he's going to join Manchester United. I reckon he'll end up at Barca. Yeah, I think he'll end up in Spain, whether it's Madrid or Barcelona, but probably edging towards Barcelona once they get Lionel Messi off their wage bill.
Why do you think United, if he comes to England? Because I think, isn't it that Chelsea are the favourites to sign him if he does come to England?
I just don't see him going. I just see him wearing red. It's just a feeling. I just see him wanting to go to Manchester United instead of City.
A premonition.
It's just a feeling. It's just a premonition. Yeah. Hooked on a feeling. Hooga chaka.
You've read the cards, and you can see Erling Braut Haaland in red.
I'll read my Toro cards. There we go. They're not.
Maybe it's Arsenal then if you see him red.
No, I see him a northern club in red, so he's definitely signing for Barnsley.
North London.
North London. Then he's definitely signing for Dagenham and Redbridge. No, I don't know why. I just see him at Manchester United. Number 2 is Harry Kane. Now, I want to get on to something a bit later on before we end the show for Tottenham fans. But Harry Kane is the second favourite. He's 27. He's not going to win anything with Mourinho as manager. I'm just going to say that now. He's just not going to win anything.
The concern I have for him, that's a concern I have for him. I don't care.
You cold bastard.
If Spurs won the League Cup this year, would he then think, we can win stuff, can win things with Spurs? And I think that would be a big mistake on his part.
Yeah.
If they won the League Cup and he stayed, because almost like when Wenger stayed after they won the first FA Cup, the first trophy in 10 years, and that Wenger probably should have at that point gone, it's been a lovely old time, guys, we're off. Kane, if they win the League Cup, Kane should probably go, do you know what? I've done what I wanted to do. I've won something with Spurs. Now I'm going to go off and try my luck elsewhere. And at City, think of the service he's going to get. At the moment, he's relying on Son, really, to do the magic for him, or he's got to do it for Son. If you go to City, one, you won't have that thing like so in the midweek games for England. I know he does it for Spurs, but England don't play the same way. He was dropping way too deep.
Yeah, he was.
If he's yeah, if he's playing at City, oh, he barely have to move.
He just has to stand there and look pretty.
Just a couple of little steps here and there, little jog around, bam. The opportunities will just be presenting themselves to him constantly because the amount they create. I think for him it would be a great move. For City, he's a proven goal scorer in that. I guess the question would be, would he be able to adjust to their system? Probably, I would imagine. He worked well under Pochettino and bought into that massively. And
I think he'd be fine.
And to be fair to him, he seems to buy into what Mourinho's doing that. So I don't think it really matters who the manager is. He'll do what he's told and then try and fit his game around it.
Yeah.
And I think if he went to City, he'd just be smashing goals in for fun.
Also in the running is Inter Milan's Romelu Lukaku, the former Manchester United striker. He's also a reported target. He's absolutely smashing it at Inter as I watched a video that basically alluded to any day now Inter are going to win Serie A, beating Juventus out. So Lukaku's absolutely smashing it in Serie A. Maybe Manchester United were wrong. They had the wrong manager. That's. I'm just going to point that out. They just had the wrong manager when Lukaku was there because he was proven to be able to score at West Brom, at Everton. He scored a lot of goals, but at Manchester United, they had Mourinho.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure he's the type of player that Pep would want.
Probably not. You are right in that, but he does. He is
He's scoring goals, but
I will say what makes this a more attractive deal is that the owners of Inter Milan, who we were talking about earlier, Suning Group, who shut down their Chinese Super League team because of financial problems, are having financial problems. So actually selling Lukaku for a good amount of money would probably be good for them.
Yeah, I don't think he would be the right signing for Man City. I heard that Chelsea were interested again.
Do they not? They never learn, do they, Chelsea?
And I think it would be a bad idea for him to go back there. I think Italy works for him.
Yeah. Plus, he's got to fight Zlatan. Middle of the San Siro. 60,000. Get 60,000 fans in there. Just not even a football match. Just let them fight. Let them fight.
Do it.
His colleague at Inter, Lautaro Martinez, also a target.
Yeah.
That although he's not a conventional number 9, is a target of Manchester City's.
And that's more realistic.
Yeah. And then the article that I'm reading goes on to say if they want to flex their financial muscle, Jack Grealish, not going to happen.
The problem for any move for him will be that Villa will price him out of any move.
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
And it's same with Kane.
Yeah. They could have a look at who they've already got in the squad, I guess. Or they could just do the most easiest thing. And I don't know what has gone on, what negotiations there have been. Just keep Agüero for another year or 2 years.
Problem solved. Imagine. Yeah, but I guess there's an element of, if you think over the last couple of seasons, he's out for a long period this year. I think last season he was out for a bit. He's always out. He always has a little bit of a break, doesn't he? I think I heard on as he was coming off first game back, he was saying, "They're not passing to me. They're not passing to me." So the side itself is kind of changed, where they don't necessarily need an out and out striker like that. So maybe like you're saying about Martinez before, would be a good option. Kane would be an interesting one in the sense that he can, he likes to drop deep, and get involved in the play and stuff as well. So maybe he can do that, and then but can also be that the number 9 who will be up there, the traditional number 9 up there, can win headers and do all that sort of stuff as well. So, or maybe, how about this, Dan? Maybe what they do is they offer a nice little contract to Olivier Giroud.
You had me. You had me hook, line,
A
and sinker
little,
there.
a little,
April Fool's
little
Day was a
bit,
couple of days ago, man.
a little plan B there. Chuck the big man on for flick-ons, bit of hold-up play, some overhead kicks, maybe a scorpion kick every now and then. Who knows?
You know what? Instead of signing him, go on, bring him out of retirement. Emil Heskey's only 43. Bring him out of retirement. Yeah, when you're sat in Rosed and the ball hits your head.
Telling you, mate, off the bench, Giroud would score an absolute hatful for City.
Probably. Agüero, where do you reckon he'll end up? I was having a discussion with somebody earlier, and they reckon Chelsea might Chelsea have this ability of going after older players and kind of, getting the dirt off and just getting a few extra. I mean, Aguero's not done in the Premier League. I could he's got more goals in him, but it's whether after he leaves City has he got his mindset of, I've achieved so much with this team that I'm just gonna get Atletico Madrid. I could see him going there, just going back for one last go round, like Diego Costa, like Fernando Torres.
Now since he left, but that's an option. But I think Barca are kind of the favourites, I think, at the moment, aren't they? Signing him free. He's friends with Messi. You got to remember I'm pretty sure
I was going to say Barca
and his kids are in Spain as well.
Yeah. To be fair, that's true. But I was going to say that Barca have this annoying habit of signing 30-year-olds that they need to get out of. They need to not sign them even if they are on free transfers.
They are collecting them, aren't they? Pjanic, Rakitic.
What they're doing
he's gone now, isn't he? But
what they're doing is they're building a retirement home next to the new camp, and that's where they're going to have them all. But other than that, maybe Chelsea, maybe throw in Arsenal, maybe Arsenal. Sergio could Agüero for Arsenal. That's how do you solve a problem like Agüero? I don't think we've solved that problem. I think that's Pep Guardiola's headache, not ours.
Yeah, he'll just stick a midfielder in there, mate. He said before that if he could have a team of midfielders, he'd be happy. That's what he said when he was at Barca.
Back to Harry Kane, and I want to just ask you a quick question. As an Arsenal fan, do the British media have an obsession with trying to convince Harry Kane that he should leave Tottenham? Because apparently a lot of Tottenham fans on social media say there is a conspiracy, cue the X-Files music, that there is an obsession amongst Sky Sports, particularly Sky Sports, that they accuse of trying to publish always stories that Harry Kane's about to leave Tottenham because they are hell-bent on making it happen. And I kind of agree with the Tottenham fans that there is an obsession from particularly Sky Sports. If you watch Sky Sports News when they talk about Harry Kane, it's always, he should leave. If you look at any of the experts, they're like, oh, he should go. And very few... Ashley Cole, I think, recently said he should. He was on ICV, and I think he's recently said that Harry Kane should probably leave. There seems to be an absolute conspiracy about it.
I don't even think it's a conspiracy. I think it's pretty obvious. A lot of people are looking at a player who is a top striker, and they're looking at him saying that he should be playing in a team that is challenging for the title. Now, I'm an Arsenal fan, and people will say oh, you're just saying that because you're an Arsenal fan. But the fact is, Spurs are not challenging for the title. At Christmas, they thought they'd won it, but you look at them now. There's been the best opportunity they had to win it. They ended up finishing third. Leicester won it. They finished third, and Arsenal finished second. So.
They finished third. I remember the saying. Tottenham finished third in a two-horse race. Yes. Exactly.
So the fact that he's now 27, he's getting into his peak. He's in his peak. He should, if he wants to win the league and he wants to win trophies, Spurs is not the place to do it. Right now, it's not the place to, and not right now, and not historically. They've had over the past sort of 10 years, they've gone on a real upward trend. They've changed the way they play, the way they do things. They've had some great players in there. They had a great manager under Pochettino. They got to the Champions League final, which is no mean feat. But they couldn't get over the line. They bottled that literally within the first, what was that, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, they got there, they lost it, and then off the back of that, it all kind of started to crumble in. You then lost Pochettino. Mourinho's come in. He's jettisoned players like Ali and like Bale's come in, and he's barely used them. And I know he started just before the international break. He started to come in and was starting to just do a bit more. But at the end of the day, a player of Harry Kane's quality is not going to achieve the things that he should achieve by staying at Spurs. And I'm not being funny, but if he was, I wouldn't even, as an Arsenal fan, I'd love to have him move over, because you know you're going to get goals out of him. That'd be that'd be a terrible move for him.
Yeah. Because
Arsenal aren't going to be a team for you to come in and win trophies and maybe an FA Cup, since we seem to like that. But do you know what I mean? So if he wants to fulfil his potential, win the trophies and everything, then he should go to a Man City. Realistically, I think United is a destination for him, and that seems to fit right to me. Kane at United, and that's why I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's pretty obvious. Everybody's looking at a player who they think deserves more, and they think he should move on to do that.
Thanks to my guest Liam Barry. Check out the Boz and Baz's Penny Arcade on your favourite podcast provider. Thank you very much for tuning in. No show next week. I've got to do some software testing, so we'll be back in a fortnight's time with more from the Football Fan Show podcast. But before I leave you, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at TFFS Live. That is also our new account on Instagram,